When Courtney Clenney and her boyfriend got into a heated dispute after he came home one day in 2022, she contacted 911 later that day, when she realized that things had gotten out of hand and her partner was no longer responding before the police arrived. However, more than a year later, prosecutors discovered a chilling phone call in which Courtney threatened her boyfriend's life less than a month before the 911 call. On top of this, her statements to the police have never been consistent with the evidence that was discovered at the crime scene, and detectives now believe there is much more to the story than she is letting on. So for obvious reasons, this case is extremely strange. The case has been discussed numerous times on social media. There are so many hypotheses regarding Courtney in the mainstream media that it's difficult to separate reality from fiction. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking about the OnlyFans model who became a killer. Despite the fact that court procedures have not yet been completed, I will do my best to tell the story in a way that makes sense and is as close to the truth as possible. Courtney Clenney, a self-proclaimed Texas girl from Midland. She was born in Texas in 1996 and spent much of her youth there. She became the center of attention at an early age, always chasing her passion for modeling and everything that comes with that lifestyle. She began modeling when she was 12 or 13 years old. Her journey began in 2003 when her family decided to relocate from Midland, Texas to Austin, Texas. She began taking modeling and acting classes and began starring in commercials and officially beginning her career in the industry. But for the next 10 years or so, Courtney faded from the spotlight, and there isn't much of a public record or any sort of paper trail concerning her until nearly 12 years later, when she was charged with public intoxication in California. This didn't stop her, because just a few weeks later, she was arrested again for drunk driving, but this time she was sentenced to serve 3 days in prison. But after that, she was given a small role in a movie with a low budget. Up until she discovered OnlyFans, that was pretty much the only thing that she had going for her. When she officially resumed her work as an online model is unknown. Evidence suggests that this was between 2019 and 2020. Courtney seemed to have discovered OnlyFans when she was at a low point in her life. And this seems to be a trend for most people in this type of industry. More often than not, people resort to extreme measures where they have no other option. Based on what we learn about past models through interviews and online, the vast majority of them regret their choices. You cannot simply leave this job and walk on, because the photographs, movies, and words you published during that time have been saved, shared, and pinned on more websites than you can possibly count. You can never completely leave an industry like this. Unfortunately, Courtney Clenney fell victim to the same trap. She intended to support herself through modeling, but hasn't done it in years. She had considerably bigger aspirations, though, as well as a much larger salary. She seized the chance where she discovered that, by pursuing a slightly different type of modeling, she could possibly earn hundreds of thousands of dollars. All of this happened somewhere in the early to mid-2020s. And she started publishing just to her followers, at first gaining a little number of followers. The more content Courtney posted and live-streamed, the more fans she attracted. And before she realized it, her new job was a financial success. She received hundreds and occasionally even thousands of fans for her uploads, and soon she was earning more money than she could ever imagine a while ago. More than $3 million was allegedly made by Courtney in less than a week, according to rumors. For Courtney, everything was going well. Finally achieving her dream of becoming a model, she was wealthy beyond what she could ever spend in a lifetime. She had no idea, however, that everything was about to collapse far more quickly than anyone could have anticipated. Courtney met a man called Christian Obumseli sometime around 2020. Despite the fact that Courtney started revealing practically every aspect of her life online, when she became a social media star, we don't really know a lot about how this connection started. The only thing we can be certain of is that the two met in Austin at some point during the pandemic, and that they later went to Florida to begin their new life together. They had been residing in a lavish apartment in Miami, literally living the dream of many people. But their relationship was not healthy. It was a very toxic relationship, filled with fights and arguments. According to police records, they were called to Courtney and Christian's home in July 2021 after a dispute had broken out between them. However, things only got worse in 2021 when police were ultimately called to their home. According to investigators, Christian gave a statement in which he claimed that Courtney had assaulted him and had started throwing things at him, including shards of glass and other sharp objects, all of which were aimed at his head. Christian also reported that Courtney had started throwing punches and had been severely abusive toward him. Christian did not throw a punch or make any aggressive attempt at defending himself. In an apparent effort to defuse the situation, he appears to have contacted the police. A month later, after he and Courtney have reunited, he dropped the accusations. The arguments between the two, however, continued after this. Every tenant from the apartment building and other locals complained about the two for shouting, fighting, bickering, and generally being unpleasant to be around. Officers were called to their residence, and charges were repeatedly filed. These two appeared to be at each other's throats all the time, and the majority of the blame was frequently placed on Courtney. Christian can be held somewhat responsible, even if he undoubtedly had a role, at the very least, for his decision to stay and not leave the relationship. However, the majority of these reports actually seem to point the finger at Courtney as the attacker. In fact, security footage from February 2022 shows Courtney punching Christian repeatedly in an elevator. Nevertheless, Christian generally maintains his composure. However, he eventually had to touch Courtney several times to get her to stop. But just a month after the CCTV tape was captured, the unthinkable happened when Courtney lost control of her temper and turned on Christian. Police officers pieced together the timeline of events days after the crime using key data from the couple's residence, which included hours and minutes leading up to an argument that the couple would not return from at around 1:15 p.m. on April 3, 2022. At 4:32, Christian briefly left the apartment building before returning shortly with sandwiches from the subway. While Courtney just finished posting a video to Instagram, Courtney's final Instagram post appears to have been a live cue and aired that she posted live on April 3. Around the time that she recorded this video, she had spoken with her mother twice on the phone, once at 4:43 p.m. and again at 4:56 p.m. During both of these calls, Courtney's mother said that Courtney sounded completely normal and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Her mother had overheard Courtney yelling at Christian, which was the only strange thing to occur. She accused him of lying about something, but at this point in their relationship, this happened frequently. According to witnesses who were present on the day of the crime, Courtney had killed Christian and left him on the apartment floor for several minutes before ever bothering to call for help at some point during that 13-minute interval between calls with her mother, according to the police. Security had been called around 4:46 p.m. After neighbors heard a major disturbance in couple apartment, we don't know if they arrived immediately afterward or not, but it doesn't seem like they did, based on the report that we have been able to gather. It wouldn't be until 4:57 p.m. that Courtney called 911 to report what she had done, according to Courtney. She was forced to defend herself. In the disturbing 911 call, Christian can be heard in the background saying, "I can't feel my arm. I'm dying." He passed away just minutes later. When the officers finally arrived at the scene, Courtney was arrested immediately. Investigators who were taking Courtney's statements and her confession said that she contradicted herself numerous times during the investigation, proving to them that she wasn't telling the whole truth. The only physical evidence that the crime was committed in self-defense was a small bruise on Courtney's shoulder, which could have resulted from practically anything. Additionally, her claims don't seem to be supported by the coroner's report. According to reports, the wound was 8 centimeters deep and slightly angled downward. The coroner and police believe this was a close-range injury. Soon, after a brief investigation, Courtney Clenney was detained on suspicion of murder. Just weeks before Christian lost his life, Courtney made a strange and downright threat, which was recorded, This recording was discovered by the police. In the recording, she was heard saying, "I'm actually not having a good day, and I actually want to kill you, but you don't take me seriously." Now there's serious crime being committed, and there was mounting evidence against Courtney. Investigators were willing to take the case a bit more seriously. Courtney is currently in jail, waiting trial. Do you believe that her actions were justified and that she truly was a victim of his abuse? Or do you believe that she's nothing more than a cold-blooded killer? Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of True Crime Stories. If you like the video and you like the channel, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more of these videos and help the channel grow. Be sure to leave a comment below.